eyes wide open.
They say the Ozark night has a different kind of quiet. A heavy one, like something is listening.
Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
She walked into the Ozarks and came back 5 days later, barefoot, burned, and broken. But what she saw in the forest still haunts her. In 2012, hiker Linda Ortega vanished deep in the Ozark Mountains. Rescuers searched everywhere, but there were no signs of struggle, no gear, no footprints. It was like she vanished into thin air. Then, 5 days later, she returned. Her skin was scorched from the sun, her feet shredded and raw. But the part that terrified everyone wasn't how she looked. It was what she said. She told her family she had been followed, not by animals, not by people, but by something else. Shadowy figures, human-shaped, but completely silent. They never got close. They just stood between the trees, watching her. Whenever she tried to sleep, she'd hear whispering, low, breathy voices from behind the trees. But when she returned, there was nothing. They never spoke. They never moved, just stood there, waiting. Every time she looked up, they were a little closer. Some believe she stumbled to a place she never was supposed to find, a part of the forest that watches back. And to this day, she refuses to go near the woods again. If the forest hides something unnatural, how long before it finds someone else?
Arkansas, and this area too, it really is a unique place. There are a lot of things that have gone on around the Clarksville area that most people do not know about. You could say this area attracts things.
I spent so much time in those woods, and the whole time I'm out playing as a kid, I have very vague memories of feeling like something was watching me, felt like something was off.
Something made me glance over that way, and there weren't any trees there yet, so I had a clear view of what I saw. About probably, I'm guessing, I suppose, about 800 feet or so above the water, there was this disc.
I can remember that it had to be in the wintertime because it got dark really early. And this was in the evening, probably 5, 6 o'clock. It had just gotten dark. And I was standing in the kitchen. I don't remember what I was doing, but I walked from the kitchen to the living room. And as I'm walking to the living room, the sliding glass doors, there's no curtains. It's all open. And I just happened to look over to the right. And what I see completely I still struggle with trying to find answers for this. But I'm looking over to the right, and there's this massive black creature standing way off in the distance.
Would it leave behind things that can't be explained? Very likely could be. And it was because of what went on.
Missouri erased an entire town to build Lake of the Ozarks. Most people think Lake of the Ozarks was built on empty land. It wasn't. Before the water, there was a town called Lynn Creek. Homes, schools, churches, cemeteries, generations of families living along the river. When the state approved the dam in 1929, residents were told it was progress, electricity, jobs, tourism. What they weren't told was how fast they'd have to leave. Some families were paid pennies for their land. Some were never paid at all. Graves were moved to higher ground. Others were left behind. The lake filled in 1931. The town disappeared. And within a few years, the story changed. No one said, we displaced 300 people. They said, vacation destination. Today, tourists boat over rooftops they'll never see. They swim above streets with names that no longer exist. Old Lynn Creek is still down there. This isn't ancient history. It's how Missouri learned to trade communities for revenue. And once you accept that trade, it gets easier to do it again.
Okay. Just gotta get out away from the window. There's mountain people. There's mountain people right next to my house. I did not know they came this close. So I cannot keep on any lice because So I'm alive. So the thing about mountain people, they're not bad people. They're just people that live in the mountains. I'm just more fearful of like who I am, you know. I'm small, petite woman alone. Yeah, like I have methods of self-defense, but you know, it's hard not to be scared. And also, like, I like to have the windows open with the screens closed, like I mentioned, because otherwise it just gets way too hot. Which is why I whisper sometimes in my camping videos. And also, when I say there's things out here, I mean there's things out here. One time my brother and I were leaving and it was dark outside. We were just going to the store, and not far in the distance, like right across the street from our house, like we watched this like candlelight. You know, it looked like it was being carried in a lantern. We watched this candlelight just slowly. There's nothing over there. There's no reason for anyone to be over there, you know? And then when we turned and put the headlights over there, there was nothing. Yesterday, when I was looking out the window and the sun had just set, and it takes like 3 hours for the moon to come out now. I don't know what that's about. This same candlelight, and it looked like it had like an aura behind it, like an orange. It was going like this, about this pace. And then it turned around and it did this. And there was like a tail of light following it. So for me, seeing this the second time, I thought, okay, there's got to be some kind of spirit out here that like does that or has a lantern or something. I haven't been able to look into it. I haven't been able to find anything like that. It was so strange that it had like an orange tail around it. And I think it was mountain people, but anyway, I'm alive. And I was, you know, it's hard not to be scared, you know, out here in the dark. And even though I do have like ways of escaping, I have my keys in here. I can literally jump out the window and go get in my car. I have a weapon. It's just hard not to be scared. And also, when I say there's things out here, we don't talk about those things. We don't hear, see, speak of, or think of those things. But there's things out here. And I've seen these things. And these things try to get my attention when I walk from the house to the RV at night. I don't wanna talk too loud about it, but sometimes when I'm out here at night, besides the RV, like just living my life, or I forgot something outside, or I gotta go outside. But a couple nights ago when I was walking to the RV, I hear this voice, and it calls like off into the distance. It goes, hey, hey, hey. And there's nobody out here. I don't recognize it. There's nobody out here, but it's trying to get my attention. So people ask me, why are you whispering? Why are you whispering? There's things out here.
So I don't think I talked about this in my last werewolf dogma update, but there have been reported sightings up and around the capital city. So I came across a story about a guy who said that he had saw one on the east side of Jefferson City, and then he saw it again on 2 separate occasions 20 minutes east of Jefferson City. Now that could be like towards Loose Creek or Lynn, or possibly like even, you know, New Bloomfield, Tebbets, Portland. It's really kind of hard to tell because he didn't want to divulge exactly where he saw these things, and he didn't want to divulge his name because he didn't want people to think he was crazy. Which I totally get, because like when I was in 2nd grade, my aunt who lived right like next to us had seen a mountain lion and 3 baby cubs. So I went to school the next day and I told my classmates about it, and they all called me a liar and called me mountain lion girl for the rest of my school year career, because they said there's no mountain lions in Missouri. And the conservation at the time had like gaslighted the public and was like, there's not a breeding population here in Missouri, blah, 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 blah. And then like a few years ago, they came out and they're like, yep, mountain lions are here. Yeah, duh, they've been here. But I digress. So this guy had said that this thing was 8 feet tall and was absolutely horrifying looking.
Man, everybody likes to talk so much about the Appalachian Mountains, but the one thing no one really talks about at all is the Ozark Mountains. And I've seen some strange things, but let me tell you about one case in particular. Now, it's my day off. I'm walking around my backyard right now. But one thing that still sticks out to this day, it was my very first time turkey hunting as an adult. I figured I'd get into it. That's something I've always been interested in. And I was 21 years old. I'm 23 now. I wasn't really in the mountain. It wasn't really in like a mountainous range by any means. It was just a real hilly environment, a lot of hills. It was my very first time, right? I've been so excited. I was anticipating it a lot. Never been turkey hunting by myself. I've been deer hunting by myself plenty of times, but never turkey hunting. And, I was real excited, loaded up everything, drove down to kind of like the Moody area, south of West Plains. It's my grandparents' land. They got about 30-acre property south of West Plains. And, man, I was excited. So I drove out there. I used my dad's old decoy. My dad had one. I set it up. I got ready. It was about 5 a.m. and I sat out there. Now, prior to this, at the time I was fairly new to turkey hunting, right? I didn't know, how to properly look for turkeys. So the weekend prior, I went out there and I just looked around for sign, little footprints, whatever. Try to be real quiet. Try not to step on any leaves. And I kept on seeing these large areas where like leaves were kicked up. And it was about every 6 feet leaves were kicked up. And I thought, what in the world could that be? I mean, it's not like a deer is gonna take 6 steps and then kick up a whole bunch of leaves. And it confused me. So I thought, that's probably nothing. Until the weekend after that when I went out there. So I sat out there. It wasn't 30 seconds after I got my decoy set up. I kept on hearing stomp, stomp, stomp. And then I heard a whole bunch of leaves getting kicked up. And I heard stomp, stomp, stomp. And then I heard a whole bunch of leaves getting kicked up. And I thought, what in the world is that? And, I sat out there for a good while listening to this. And I didn't know what it was. I had no clue. And I didn't look behind me. I didn't know what it was. I was trying to stay quiet, stay still. I got ADHD, so it's kind of hard to stay still. But as I was sitting out there, it kept on getting closer and closer and closer. And then finally, it sounded like it was 12 feet away. And I kind of looked over. And what I saw still shocks me to this day. I have no clue what it was. It was dark. Hadn't even been daylight yet. But I can kind of make out what it was. Whatever it was, I'll give you a little size judgment. See this barn? It was about to the top of it. That's how high it was. That's how tall it was. And it was walking. And behind it, this is what I'm confused about. Behind it, there was deer following it through the woods. Like 15 to 20 of them, just following this thing through the woods. And I didn't know what it was. So it couldn't have been a deer on its hind legs, because a deer on its hind legs is not going to be that tall. And it just kept walking and walking and walking. And it looked over at me, and its arms were kind of hung down like that. It looked over at me, and I was scared to death. I truly was. So I tried my best not to make myself known. I was all camoed out. It was turkey season. Had no orange on. So I hope it didn't notice me, but still. And as it continued on, it made a strange noise. Now, I can't make the noise. It was unearthly. And when it made that noise, it took off down the hill and ran. And all the deer jumped and followed it. And the crazy thing is, I came to work the week after that, and I told people, and they thought I was crazy. I kept on getting told, Hunter, there's certain mushrooms you're not supposed to eat out in the woods. And I just kind of brushed it off. But to this day, I still have no clue what I saw. I've never heard of anything like it. Never heard anything, never seen anything like it. If anybody knows what it was, just comment down below and tell me. I still don't know. I'm still kind of shocked to this day. But yeah. Everybody likes to talk about the Appalachian Mountains. What about the Ozark Mountains, It's just one of those things, but...
I don't like... But we have one loaded now.
Gateway, Arkansas Mayor Cheryl Tillman decided to arm herself after Grant Hardin, who used to be her town's police chief, escaped from prison last Sunday.
How would you describe Grant Hardin?
Just an evil person.
Hardin admitted that he shot Tillman's brother, James Appleton, in the head 8 years ago and killed him. Hardin broke out of state prison by disguising himself in a makeshift law enforcement uniform. It's a mystery how he pulled off the escape.
What was your reaction when you heard he escaped prison?
My heart just sank. I thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now?
Hardin was going to spend the rest of his life in prison for the 1990s rape of a school teacher at Point.
Authorities believe Hardin is still in this area, driving in toward the prison. We saw officers up and down the road. There are checkpoints. They're searching cars. They're searching barns. They're scouring this rugged terrain with drones and on foot, looking for any signs of the escaped fugitive.
Rand Champion is with the Arkansas Department of Corrections.
This area of Arkansas, very hilly, very densely full, as you can see. There's just a lot of places that provide a challenge for the search team to try and find it and make sure that we're combing over everything we can.
The potential for revenge has terrified this community.
What are you telling people?
Just to be vigilant, keep your doors locked. That's about all I can tell them.
A spokesperson for the Department of Corrections tells me searchers are still focused on the north central part of Arkansas. They have hundreds of people hunting Hardin around the clock, including officers on horseback.
They say if you hear the howlers cry, well, it's already too late. A mix between a wolf, a cat, and something that just shouldn't exist. Horns curling back. Eyes burning red. You shouldn't be here, but I'm glad that you are because the Ozarks are quiet until they're not. Hunters swear that they've seen it. Locals pretend that they haven't. Maybe it's an old spirit guarding what's left of the mountains. Or maybe it's parts of the wild that just never wanted us there in the first place.
It was up on a slope. Then it jumped over the trail.
One lead.
It's too big to be a dog. Dogs don't jump like that. It was agile like a cat. Never seen anything like it.
I mean, I know it was nighttime, but what did it look like? White on top with, really short back legs.
One thing that people describe the Ozark howler as having is antlers or horns. Did you see anything like that?
No, never saw horns, but it does have huge ears like a bat, and they stick up kind of like horns. I tried to draw the pictures of what I thought it looked like.
Those look like cat ears, big wolfy head.
It seemed like it's at least 700 pounds, huge shoulders and arms.
How tall would you say it was? Probably 7-8 feet.
The size of it, it's the size of a bear. Like, how do you know it's not a bear?
Because I work in a vet clinic. I've been up close to bears. I've been up close to mountain lions.
So you're super familiar with what roams the forests in this area?
Yeah. I've never seen any mammal like that in the Ozarks.
There is a monster lurking in Arkansas. Throughout the vast wilderness of this state, there is a legend of a massive and dangerous creature that is the stuff of nightmares. Meet the Ozark howler. Also known as the hoo-hoo, the devil cat, and the nightshade bear, this cryptid is purported to live in the remote Ozark Mountains. Details vary, but it's most often described as having a thick bear-sized body, a feline face, stocky legs, black shaggy hair, glowing red eyes, and prominent horns. According to the legend, it also has an unmistakable and bone-chilling cry, that locals say sounds like a combination of a wolf's howl, an elk's bugle, and a hyena's laugh. And some believe that an encounter with this creature is an omen of death. The earliest known encounters of these creatures were from Daniel Boone in the early 1800s, who was said to have shot one of these creatures. In 1892, an organization called the Concatenated Order of Hoo-Hoo was formed between leaders of the Arkansas forest industry, and some U.S. presidents, like Teddy Roosevelt, were supposedly involved with this order. And there is a theory that the order worked with Roosevelt during the creation of the national park system to hide and preserve unknown creatures like the Ozark howler. Now, some believe the Ozark howler could be related to something like a hellhound, or that it's simply a misidentified cougar or red wolf, despite there being no known population of those animals in the region.
On August 29, 2001, 6-year-old Haley Zega goes on a hike in the Ozark National Forest with her grandparents. They had originally planned on hiking down to this waterfall, but Haley wasn't super fond of the outdoors. She's 6 years old. She's starting to get kind of tired and grumpy. It was getting kind of late at this point, and the grandparents decide to start heading back. But Haley ends up pitching a fit, and she sits down on a rock, and she said she wasn't moving unless her grandparents carried her. So the grandparents decide to do like the quick, okay, fine, and they pretend to walk off, and Haley did decide to start following them after this. But because she was so tired, she would often stop a lot along the trail. So she was walking and then she'd stop a lot, and the grandparents decide that at one point they're going to walk a little bit ahead of her and just kind of wait for her to catch up. They were pretty much watching her though the entire time. But in just the few moments that the grandparents had decided to walk ahead, they would lose sight of Haley. Haley says that she could not see or hear them anymore, and she just remembers walking through dense forest. Haley kept walking until she came to a split in the trail, and she decides to go down one side of this trail, hoping that it would lead her to her grandparents. But this trail just ended up taking her further into deeper and deeper woods, and soon Haley realized she really was lost. On the first day that she was lost, Haley finds the Buffalo River, which she's hoping will lead her back to civilization, so she hatches a plan that she's going to follow this river. Now, at this point, there was a massive search and rescue effort underway to look for Haley. In fact, it was the largest in Arkansas history. Haley could even see the helicopters flying overhead, and she would prop herself up on the rocks by the river, hoping that they would see her, but they never did. On the second and third days, Haley is still trying to follow the river. She's getting hungrier, she's getting more thirsty. Obviously, she was scared to actually drink from the river because it might be contaminated, and she's screaming her name. She's doing everything she can to hope that someone will find her and notice where she is. Finally, towards the end of the third day, Haley was found by 2 men on horseback. These men weren't actually part of the official search party, but they knew the area really well, and when they went to the official search party to tell them, hey, you might want to look in this area, their request was denied because they didn't believe Haley could have actually gotten this far, so they didn't want to waste resources looking for her in areas they didn't think she could possibly be. So thankfully, these men decided to search there anyways, and they did find Haley. Now, when Haley was questioned about what happened to her while she was in the woods, she told everyone that she had been fine because she had her imaginary friend Alicia with her the entire time. Now, people thought maybe this was a coping mechanism, but Haley said that this imaginary friend would play games with her, they sang songs, and Alicia would even help Haley trek down the 200-foot bluffs to make sure she could get back to the river, and these would have been difficult for an adult, much less a child. When people started looking into this imaginary friend story, they realized that there actually had been a little girl named Alana, which is pretty similar to Alicia, who had gone missing in the same area 23 years prior. Alana was 4 years old, she had black hair and brown eyes, and this is exactly as Haley described Alicia. Haley said that this little girl was with her from the moment she got lost until the moment she was found, and she had never had an imaginary friend before or after that. So I'm curious if you guys think maybe this was really all just a coping mechanism, or was this Alicia spirit a guardian angel, or maybe a ghost? Was she some sort of spirit guide?
It was the early 1960s in Annapolis, Missouri, a little town in the Ozarks. in the southeast part of the state. My sisters, Deborah and Glenna, were being the young teens that they were and hanging out and enjoying a nice summer day. As evening approached, they found themselves walking along the road, and they could see a lady in a white dress walking towards them. They thought nothing of this. It's not unusual to see someone enjoying a nice evening stroll in Missouri summertime. It was only when they got a little closer that they felt there was something odd about the woman's stride. But still, enjoying the summer, being teens, didn't really think much of it until they got yet a little closer. And then they noticed her eyes, or the void thereof. And they looked her from head to toe and noticed that though in perfect stride, she had no feet. The girls, horrified at the sight, ran screaming back to the home, which still stands in the same spot in Annapolis, Missouri. I don't know if the lady in white is still seen in Annapolis. You'd have to tell me. If you're from Annapolis, Missouri, if you've been to Annapolis, Missouri, have you seen the lady in white? Does she still stroll the road with no feet and black voids for eyes? The haunted Ozarks.
The Ozarks. So I thought the Appalachian Mountains were creepy, and I thought the Scottish Highlands were creepy because of just how old the land is. I never even touched the Ozarks. I'm talking like old America old. I'm talking about older than most mountain ranges on the earth. By the time humans stepped foot on the Ozarks, it was already ancient, and that is exactly where the fear starts to set in, because when you start to really think about it, it's an old saying, when a land is old, it remembers things. Just like the Appalachian Mountains, just like the Scottish Highlands, there are instances where people just disappear without signs of struggle or screaming. Like, they're actually gone. They vanish. There are time distortions in a way that people will disappear and come back and feel like it was minutes, but they've been gone for weeks. Most of the time, the people that disappear are never found, and no one actually knows what happened to them. Come to find out, the locals of the area say that there are some things in those woods that are not animals. Stories of feral people, just like in the Appalachian Mountains. Human-like figures that move too fast and too quiet to be actually mortal. And again, watching from the tree lines, it's said that they follow hikers silently and study their movements. Many hikers report hearing like whispers behind them, but not regular human whispers, like almost like they're trying to learn how to speak. What's terrifying is not the new stories, but the 1,000-year-old native stories. Tribes warned settlers that there were some places that just were not meant for humans, specifically the caves that were sealed. Even go in valleys, like they believed that there was something living under the earth that was older than them and did not want to be disturbed. I don't know what y'all, but that low-key sounds like Nephilim to me. Y'all know the giants and the caves that go together. Are we going to talk about how the map of vanished people directly lines up with the map of the cave system? No, okay, yeah. Is with the caves, the Ozarks are full of cave systems, and most of them are unmapped, like never before explored. Or maybe they were explored and the people just never got back to be able to tell us what's down there. People disappear near the cave entrances all the time, like entire search parties Hikers will turn around, turn back, their friend is gone. That kind of reminds me of the giant of Kandahar in Afghanistan. That would have to be another video. I personally think that there is still Nephilim in the caves, and that's why the Bible says there were Nephilim on the earth in the times of Noah and also afterwards. But not the same Raphaim from the times of Noah. I think that the government, I don't know if I can say that without getting banned, the Gov, they are experimenting in those like far off places, not Area 51, that's too obvious. Those places that were restricted from going, I think that they're experimenting on certain things, trying to recreate things. They put on the television, telling us that, oh, it's all fake, like it's just fantasy. Haven't we learned from Sirens that nothing is fantasy? This world is so spiritual, like it's more spiritual than physical. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but yeah, that's the Ozarks.
Grandmother used to warn us about camping near the bald hilltops, the Knobs. Not because of animals, but because of the men who used to gather there. Men who wore horned black hoods with stitched mouths and red glowing slits for eyes. The Bald Knobbers, a vigilante group that ran out of mercy long before they ran out of victims. History says they died out, but the Ozarks, they keep their dead close. When I was 16, my cousins dared me to hike up to one of their old meeting sites at dusk. Just an empty clearing and a few rotted fence posts, they said. A place swallowed by time, but the moment we reached the top, the woods felt wrong, still waiting. My cousin Travis found it first, a horned mask nailed to a tree, no footsteps around it, the wood beneath it freshly gouged. As if someone had hammered it in minutes ago, he laughed, said it had to be a prank. Then we heard boots. Slow, deliberate, crunching leaves just beyond the tree line, but no flashlights, no voices, just footsteps circling. The air turned cold and the smell hit us. Smoke, sweat, old earth, like someone had climbed out of a grave and walked straight to us. Travis whispered, "Do you see that?" Between the trees, 3 silhouettes stood perfectly still, tall, broad-shouldered, and each one had horns. More footsteps joined them, behind us, to our left, our right. We were surrounded. Then came the sound, a wet, rasping breath, inches from my ear, followed by a voice that sounded too old to be alive.
"Lonnie's keeping."
We ran, branches whipping our faces, lungs burning, boots pounding the earth behind us. When we reached the bottom of the hill, the footsteps stopped, just like that, but Travis, he didn't stop screaming for hours, because when we finally looked at him under the cabin porch light, there were finger-shaped bruises around his throat, too large, too high up, like someone had lifted him. We never went back, but sometimes, when the Ozarks fog rolls thick over the hills, you can still see figures standing on the knobs, horns outlined against the moon, watching, and locals swear. If you camp there overnight, you'll wake up to the mask nailed above your tent, with fresh dirt on the inside. If you ever hear boots circling you in the Ozark dark, don't run downhill. That's where the Bald Knobbers drove their victims. Run uphill. If you're lucky, they'll decide you're not worth the climb.
Deep in Arkansas's rugged Ozarks and fertile delta lie 73 forgotten tales from historic newspapers. Giant skeletons clutching Spanish swords in Little Rock, Chickasaba Mound, 9-foot skeletons with hieroglyph jars, Smithsonian, vanished Ozark cave giants, and entire mountains reshaped by ancient peoples mining novaculite stone. Toltec royal tombs, earth, house villages blanketing the state, Mississippi County smelters with mystery pills, and DeSoto warriors buried under urban streets await. Some border finds connect through shared mound lore and prehistoric rivers. Prehistoric Road of the Giants. The Opelousas Journal, Opelousas, Louisiana, May 26, 1877, and also the Hickman Courier, Hickman, Kentucky, May 4, 1877. In the late 19th century, fascinating archaeological discoveries around Arkadelphia and the Ouachita River in southwestern Arkansas revealed evidence of a long-lost prehistoric civilization. A correspondent writing from Arkadelphia in March described an ancient well-graded road about 50 feet wide. This road was discovered in 1831 during the construction of the military road from Memphis to the Texas line. This roadway, overgrown with massive ancient trees, appeared to be 800 to 1,000 years old. Local Native Americans attributed it to a peaceful advanced race called the Lena Lenape. They claimed these people had been driven southwest by fiercer tribes. Near Arkadelphia, enormous earthen mounds drew particular attention. The most impressive was a mound on the Caddo River over 100 feet high. It rose from a flat plain and was once covered in large timber. About 20 years prior, Colonel H.W. McMillan excavated this mound. He uncovered richly decorated earthen jugs, bowls, dishes, carved pipes, bearing mysterious hieroglyphic-like inscriptions, stone relics, and even a Spanish sword with remnants of iron armor. This suggested possible contact with De Soto's expedition. Many of these artifacts were later donated to collections in Nashville, and for Arkansas's centennial exhibit. Other discoveries included similar pottery and relics from mounds on local plantations. There was also a duck-shaped oil lamp covered in inscriptions found on the nearby Welch farm. Most strikingly, erosion along the Ouachita River bank about 5 miles below Arkadelphia exposed numerous human skeletons measuring over 7 feet tall. These hinted at a race of giants buried in what may have been an ancient health resort area tied to the nearby hot springs just 20 miles away. These findings point to a sophisticated prehistoric people who cultivated the rich Ouachita Valley soil, built massive structures, and possibly valued the region's therapeutic waters long before European arrival. All discoveries center in Arkadelphia and the Ouachita Valley of southwestern Arkansas. This story was a combination of 2 newspaper articles. Number 2. Chickasaba Mound Giants. Washington Standard, October 29, 1870, and 3 other articles that will be listed in the full video description. In northeastern Arkansas, near Old Barfield Point in today's Mississippi County, a great earthen monument known as Chickasaba Mound rises about 25 feet above the surrounding lowlands. Its flat summit covers roughly an acre on the east bank of Pemiscot Bayou, a branch of the St. Francis River. The mound and the surrounding 12-square-mile tract of fertile, elevated land both bear the name Chickasaba. This honors a legendary Shawnee chief of gigantic stature and remarkable strength who once made this place his home. From around 1800 until his death in 1831, Chief Chickasaba and his hunters gathered annually at Barfield Point. This was then a thriving Mississippi River trading center. They brought furs, peltries, buffalo robes, and even deerskin bags filled with honey. Local tradition says he once hauled as much as 20 gallons at a time. They traded for powder, lead, blankets, and money. In his 90s, he even took a young wife and fathered 2 children. When she died in 1831, the chief, then about 93 or 94, soon followed. According to local accounts, he was buried at the mound. Some versions say at its base, others on its summit. He was buried by his people and sub-chiefs such as Big Knife, Cornmeal, and Moonshine. His son John Pemiscot carried on the family name. Later Shawnee, like John East, lingered in the region into the Civil War era. Years after the chief's burial, the mound revealed a far older and stranger secret. During an excavation near its base, workers uncovered the remains of a gigantic human being. This skeleton, by careful measurement, was estimated at 8 to 9 feet in height. The skull was so large that witnesses said it could easily slip over the head of an average man. Beneath this massive skull lay a finely crafted earthen vessel. It was shaped like a long-necked carafe or round-bodied decanter. It was made from a peculiar clay and decorated with striking hieroglyphic-like designs. 4 human hands, palms outward and running vertically, flanked by clearly delineated thigh bones. Other artifacts accompanied the burial, though some details faded from memory. What did not fade was the pattern that followed. Subsequent excavations in and around Chickasaba Mound and across the broader Chickasaba region repeatedly turned up similar oversized skeletons. Each was accompanied by nearly identical funeral jars placed beneath the skull. In one case, the assembled leg and foot bones alone stood about 5 feet high in a physician's office. This indicated a person of 9 to 10 feet in stature. In another, near Beaufort's Landing close to Barfield, a single leg measured 5 to 6 feet long by itself. Portions of thigh bones more than 3 feet in length and fragments of the peculiar vases were reported preserved in the city. They were examined by doctors and curious visitors alike. To many locals and early writers, these finds suggested a long-extinct race of giants who once lived in northeastern Arkansas. Centuries before Chief Chickasaba and his Shawnee hunters used the mound, they pictured a prehistoric people of colossal stature erecting great earthworks across Arkansas and into Kentucky. Their enormous bones and unique funeral pottery, etched with open hands and thigh bones, remained as silent evidence after their stories vanished. Modern science often dismisses giant reports as misidentified animal bones or measurement errors, yet the repeated accounts of huge skeletons and distinctive hand and thigh bone jars at Chickasaba Mound keep this Mississippi County site alive in Arkansas's ancient lore. Number 3. Prehistoric Battle in Giant Graves. Image 3 of Pine Bluff Daily Graphic, Pine Bluff, Ark. September 12, 1905, and 4 other articles. In the late 19th century, railroad crews and farmers along the Arkansas River in Indian Territory, now eastern Oklahoma, stumbled into what sensation-seeking newspapers called the largest prehistoric cemeteries and battlefields ever found in America, just across the river from Arkansas. Near Redland Station, 1.5 miles south of the river, workers cut through a 50-acre bone field holding thousands of skeletons packed 1 per 2 square yards, potentially 50,000 dead from some ancient catastrophe. Many bones lay broken and jumbled, skulls pierced by arrowheads, one held 13, another a 4-inch agate spear through the spine, suggesting a brutal prehistoric battle 700 to 800 years earlier. These victims averaged small stature, 5 to 5 feet 8 inches, with long, narrow, Egyptian-like skulls, buried without metal or European goods. Pottery, jugs, sooty cooking pots, even rare oil lamps, sat at elbows for the afterlife journey. Theorists claimed Maya-related people raided by Western Aztec Toltec warriors in a valley-wide war. 25 miles upriver at Weber's Falls, 25 miles southeast of Fort Gibson, educated Creek farmer D.A. McCorkle uncovered a contrasting 2-mile cemetery on his land, once hidden under giant timber and cane. Heavy rains and plowing revealed compass-aligned graves, spaced 4 feet apart, all bodies facing east, with earthen bowls cradled in the right arm. A uniform ritual. Skulls showed thick bone walls, over half-inch, receding foreheads, heavy rear profiles. Most crumbled on exposure, but one 7-foot giant gripped the only weapon found, a 9-inch spearhead. Professor Edwards, visiting in 1896, tied both sites together as one epic 20,000-year-old mound builder victory over invading Mayas that killed 75,000, sealed by adobe floods under mammoth forests. The discovery raced to Washington's Ethnological Department as proof of vanished earthwork builders whose monuments stretch New York to Texas. Though modern archaeology finds no trace of these exact mass graves. Weber's Falls sits in Muskogee County, OK, near Spiro Mounds. The Arkansas River, as Arkansas's western border, carried real prehistoric traffic, making Redland and Weber's Falls enduring border legends that echo into Arkansas mound lore. Though sites are in Oklahoma, the Arkansas River forms Arkansas's northwest border and was a major prehistoric corridor linking Arkansas mound cultures. The mound builder theme directly connects to Arkansas's own earthworks, making this a natural regional mystery for Arkansas ancient history videos. Number 4. The Giant Spaniard, the Eugene City Guard, June 18, 1898. Workmen making street improvements in Little Rock, Arkansas, unearthed a remarkable and mysterious relic. It was a rough oak box that crumbled instantly under their picks, revealing the considerable portion of what was once a gigantic skeleton. The smaller bones had entirely decayed, but traces of their existence remained visible on the sides and bottom of the rude coffin. Adding to the intrigue, the grinning skull was encased in a heavy warrior's helmet, while the fleshless fingers of the right hand clutched a long, rust-eaten sword. From head to foot, the skeleton measured an astounding 7 feet 4 inches, suggesting its owner had been a man of remarkable size and strength. Besides the helmet and sword, neither bearing any clue to the identity, only fragments of a tunic remained. Removing the bones proved exceedingly difficult. Even when accomplished, they crumbled like ashes at the slightest touch, reducing easily to fine dust. A portion of the skull was successfully salvaged and given to a local physician for examination. The helmet and sword, also in advanced decay, were retained by the property owner, Mr. Ubel, who later sold them to a gentleman interested in historical research. Though no information provided the remotest clue to the giant's identity, his burial clearly predated known historical records of the area. This led to the widespread belief that he was one of the early Spanish discoverers of the Mississippi Valley, perhaps a member of Hernando de Soto's famed expedition, buried at this spot by his struggling companions during their perilous journey through the wilderness that would one day become Arkansas. This story was a combination of 5 separate articles. Number 5. Ozark Cave Giants Vanished by Smithsonian. Springfield Daily News Report. April 25, 1934. In 1913, reporter Victor Schaufelmeyer detailed a chilling Ozark cave discovery near Beaver Lake in Arkansas. 12 skeletons averaging 7 to 8 feet tall, 6 normal-sized, were unearthed with 70-foot stone walls suggesting ancient habitation. Skulls so massive they dwarfed modern heads, bones packed in a box and reburied after study, fueling claims the Smithsonian whisked them away to bury giant evidence. Lake Expo's 2017 article ties this to persistent Ozark lore of pre-native giants. No trace found post. 1960 Beaver Lake, flooding despite diver probes revealing cave shelters, but no remains. This echoes Steelville, Missouri's 1933 8-foot skeleton shipped to the Smithsonian and never resurfacing. Modern verdict. Exaggerated mammoth bones or tall native outliers, yet the lost giant's mystery endures. This combines reports from 1913 newspapers and later summaries. Number 6. Ozark Cave Dwellers and Petroglyph Secrets. The Ely Miner, Ely, Minnesota, July 15, 1932, and 2 other articles. In the rugged Ozark Hills of northern Arkansas, Smithsonian anthropologist Winslow M. Walker uncovered haunting evidence of a primitive cave-dwelling people. Their lives blended tender burials, pet companionship, and cryptic rock art, unlike any known Native American tribe. His excavations in massive hill caverns and rock shelters, spanning sites within about 100 miles, revealed 10 burials for roughly 12 to 21 individuals. This included 6 very young children and infants, tenderly adorned with necklaces of 600 freshwater snail shells. Adults comprised 2 men, a woman, and an adolescent boy. Most lay flexed in fetal positions, while one man's bones appeared bundled and tied atop the woman's skeleton. Most poignant was a dog burial near a child, forelegs crossed over hind legs in deliberate pose. No burned or broken dog bones marred refuse heaps, proving these people cherished canines as beloved pets and spiritual partners, rather than food. Artifacts painted daily survival. Flint spear and javelin heads, knives, drills, scrapers, water, worn stone hammers and grinders, mussel, shell spoons and box, turtle bowls, flat, bottomed undecorated pottery shards, and a notched antler, atlatl tip, for hurling darts predating bows. Rock art deepened the enigma. In caverns and shelters, red ochre paintings showed humans, snakes, animal tracks, sun, moon, stars. A field held 3 flat, topped stones with faint geometric carvings, circles and dots within circles, human hands and footprints, animal tracks, possibly ceremonial clan markers. An enormous sandstone cave bore deep half-inch petroglyphs of men, turtles, birds, diamonds, bars, discs, stylized humans, and a horse, like figure-sparking Spanish treasure legends of carved gold maps, though fruitless digs yielded nothing. Ash and charcoal up to 5 feet deep tied sites to Ozark bluff dwellers. Styles varied by location, hinting multiple tribes like Osage or Cherokee ancestors left diverse symbols. These northern Arkansas discoveries evoke a gentle, artistic people whose pet graves and silent stones whisper forgotten Ozark tales. Number 7. Ancient Burial Cave of Vanished Race. The Washburn Times, Washburn, Wisconsin, June 19, 1919. Near Huntsville, in the hill country of northwestern Arkansas, a vast cave has been found on the farm of Lemuel Kendall. It lies about 4 miles northeast of the little community of Alabama, with its entrance opening close to the banks of Kings River. This cavern is described as the largest in Madison County, and possibly one of the largest in the entire state. Explorers already pushed at least 5 miles into its dark passages. As they moved deeper underground, they passed through scores of chambers, some tight and cramped, others opening unexpectedly into a single room said to cover more than a quarter of an acre. Great stalagmites and stalactites rose from floor and ceiling like the pillars of some buried cathedral. Evidence suggests that this Arkansas cave was not just a natural wonder, but a place of the dead in prehistoric times. It served as a burial site by an unknown people. Among the discoveries is the sloping skull of a man described as belonging to a vanished race, hinting at an ancient community that once knew this cavern well and carried their dead into its depths. Through the darkness runs a swift underground river, wide and deep enough for large boats to float upon its surface. In its black waters live blind fish that have never seen the light of day, silent witnesses to the forgotten burials and mysteries hidden beneath the Arkansas hills. Number 8. Squirrel Skull, buried with ancient man. The Prescott Daily News, Prescott, Arkansas, March 27, 1920. In Nevada County, Arkansas, just 5 miles south of Prescott, farmer W.T. Barrier made a startling discovery while plowing his field in the early 1900s. His plow, running about 12 inches deep, struck a small mound and hit a human skull, bursting it open and scattering the bones of a complete skeleton. Barrier stopped work immediately and carefully excavated the site. He recovered a nearly intact human skeleton whose bones were fairly well preserved, though some crumbled easily into powder when handled. Remarkably, buried alongside the human remains was the skull of a squirrel. Barrier even brought some of the human teeth into Prescott to show reporters. A local resident who had lived in the area for over 40 years confirmed that no known burials had taken place on that land during his lifetime. This suggests the interment, both the person, whose sex remains unknown, and the squirrel, occurred at least half a century earlier, possibly much longer, making it a potential prehistoric or early historic Native American burial. The unusual inclusion of a squirrel skull adds an extra layer of mystery to this ancient Arkansas grave, leaving locals to wonder about the rituals and beliefs of those who placed it there long ago. Number 9. Fort Smith Mounds lost Maya relics. While this story mentions Fort Smith, Arkansas, the details strongly suggest the nearby Spiro Mounds complex across the Arkansas-Oklahoma border. Kavanaugh Mound in Fort Smith proper lacks the mass skeletal remains described, whereas Spiro's Craig Mound perfectly matches. Amateur looters in the 1930s destroyed hundreds of skeletons alongside exotic artifacts, initially mistaken for Maya-style craftsmanship. To cover both possibilities, I'll show images from each site. Daily Examiner, September 28, 1936. 2 young Arkansas farm lads, digging for buried treasure in an odd-looking mound near Fort Smith, stumbled upon a chilling find. Human bones emerging from the sandy loam. Eagerly scooping away the earth, they soon uncovered the partly mummified skeleton of a long, deceased man. His bleached chest was covered by a crumbling bow, spears, and an assortment of objects resembling stone pipes. Word quickly spread through town, and curio hunters commissioned the boys to continue digging. Before long, they had unearthed hundreds of similar skeletons from the mound. Archaeologists, upon hearing of the discovery, rushed to Fort Smith with dismay. They examined some of the relics and identified them as possibly bearing workmanship reminiscent of distant Maya or Inca styles. They lamented the loss, certain that the central mummy had belonged to a great warrior, now reduced to dust by the boys' hasty, untrained hands. The priceless story of how such exquisite Central American carvings and pottery reached the distant wilds of Arkansas was lost forever. Archaeologists examined some of the relics and noted early theories suggesting the strange workmanship resembled distant Maya or Inca styles. These were initial speculations about artifacts that didn't match known Native American items at the time, so their presumption of Mayan origins was incorrect. That said, a legitimate Mayan artifact later confirmed real by scholars was discovered in an Arkansas cave, which we'll cover later in this video, so stay tuned. The plot thickens. Number 10. Skeleton trapped in ancient oak. The Don Dorigo Gazette, July 4, 1925. Near Elm Springs in northwest Arkansas, a fleeing rabbit led a party of hunters on an unexpected chase. one that ended with a chilling discovery inside the hollow of a giant oak tree. The tree's opening was narrow, only a few inches wide, forcing the men to enlarge it with their old flintlock rifles before they could peer inside. What they found sent shivers through the group. A complete human skeleton, along with an ancient flintlock rifle and a buckskin pouch still containing gunpowder. Foresters examined the massive oak and estimated that the narrow entrance hadn't been large enough for a grown man to pass through for more than 60 years. This raised haunting questions about the unfortunate soul's fate. Perhaps he had climbed into the hollow seeking refuge from pursuing Indians, only to find himself trapped, unable to turn or maneuver his way back out. Or maybe he had crawled in wounded from battle or hunt, succumbing alone in the darkness. The eerie tale evoked memories of James Paine's thrilling story, The Lost Sir Massingbird, where a man meets a similar grim end concealed within nature's grasp. This macabre refined in the Arkansas woods whispered of frontier dangers long past, where one wrong move could seal a person's doom forever in the heart of the natural state's ancient forests. Number 11. Crippled thigh bone from Arkansas Mounds. Evening Star, Washington, D.C., February 28, 1954. Dr. T. Dale Stewart, curator of physical anthropology at the Smithsonian Institution, uncovered evidence of ancient diseases while excavating prehistoric skeletal remains. Some of his most striking finds are now on display at the Army Medical Museum in Washington, D.C. Among these, a thigh bone from an Arkansas Indian stands out, showing clear signs that its owner lived with a crippling condition. This offers a direct glimpse into the physical struggles of people buried in Arkansas mounds. The bone's deformities reveal how this individual survived a serious injury or congenital issue long enough to be laid to rest in an Arkansas grave. Meanwhile, Dr. Stewart's broader work compares dental health and bone pathologies across ancient populations. He noted pristine teeth in Eskimos and Texas Indians, alongside decay in Maryland and Virginia tribes due to diet differences like corn, heavy meals. The Arkansas thigh bone adds to this catalog of prehistoric ailments, underscoring that disabilities plagued humans as far back as the dinosaurs. Number 12. Mound builder skeletons at Prairie Creek Bridge. The Siftings Herald, Arkadelphia Ark, July 26, 1928. In the summer of 1930, R.W. Bransford was constructing a stone driveway and digging a pit for a gasoline tank at a new filling station at the Prairie Creek Bridge, just east of Murfreesboro on the main road to Hot Springs, in Pike County, Arkansas. During the excavation, he uncovered several Native American skeletons, along with a significant quantity of coarse, black human hair, believed at the time to belong to ancient mound builders. The site lay directly beside an old Indian mound, adding to the archaeological intrigue. Remarkably, this very location, beneath a massive giant tree that still shaded the spot, was the historic place where Pike County was officially organized in the 1840s by early settlers establishing the county government. The unexpected discovery quickly drew crowds of curious tourists passing through the area on their way to Hot Springs or the nearby diamond fields. Local curio seekers gathered as well, eager to glimpse these physical traces of Arkansas's prehistoric past. This find highlights the rich Caddo Mound, building culture that once thrived in southwest Arkansas centuries ago. Nearby sites like the Ka-Do-Ha Indian village just outside Murfreesboro preserve similar ancient mounds and artifacts for modern visitors to explore. Number 13. Arkansas Mound Skulls at Centennial Exhibition, Public Ledger, Memphis Tenoriers, September 29, 1876. At the 1870 Sixth Centennial Exhibition in Philadelphia, relics from ancient mound builders were displayed in various state departments and government buildings. These provided insights into their arts and culture through items like earthenware vessels, necklaces of shells, bone and copper needles, arrow, heads, spear, heads, and stone axes. The artifacts, found across the Mississippi Valley from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, suggested a dense prehistoric population. Similarities to Peruvian pottery hinted at broader connections, with theories linking them to the Aztecs rather than Native American ancestors. Focusing on Arkansas, the state's department showcased relics including peculiar skulls from local mounds. These exhibited early cranial modifications, some flattened on one side, others conical, and some with oversized jaws. indicating cultural practices of shaping children's heads. Recently opened mounds in Arkansas revealed detailed burial customs. Skeletons were arranged in enclosures in a sitting position, each equipped with a water vessel at the right arm, a food plate in front, and a smaller vessel, possibly a medicine bottle, at the left. This suggested beliefs in an afterlife journey. These findings, alongside traces of villages and fortifications in nearby regions like Missouri, Ohio, and Iowa, positioned Arkansas as a key area for understanding this vanished civilization's presence in the Mississippi Valley. Number 14. Giant Skeletons and Ancient Smelters. Memphis Daily Appeal, Memphis 10, May 5, 1873, and 2 other articles. In the late 19th century, a fascinated resident of Osceola, Arkansas, in Mississippi County, shared extraordinary discoveries from the region's numerous ancient mounds. These painted a picture of a long, lost, advanced prehistoric civilization. On the Buckner Place farm near Crooked Lake in Mississippi County, excavators uncovered traces of underground smelting furnaces containing lead ore. This puzzled experts since the local soil lacks minerals and contains no natural lead deposits. Workers also plowed up high-quality bricks far superior to modern ones in pottery vessels of every shape and size. In ditch digging on the same farm, they found enormous human skeletons, some buried face downward, others upright, possibly chiefs given finer accompanying vessels. Many had earthenware pots placed like caps over their heads. These giants belonged to an extinct race, with bones indicating staggering heights. Near a deep bayou on the Chickasaba lands, a local hotel keeper unearthed what he first thought was a massive gourd, but it proved to be a huge human skull. The full skeleton crumbled upon exposure, embedded in a strange preservative material that retained traces of facial features. In one mound excavation, Dr. J.H. Hazard discovered a small earthen box, tumbler-sized, with a fitted lid, half filled with hard, preserved pills, perhaps ancient medicine for the nearby giant burial. These were sent for analysis, highlighting the sophistication of these deadly doctors from a forgotten era. A standout artifact was an ancient cup, twice the size of a teacup, with projections and holes for hanging over a fire. It bore scorch marks from melting lead. Described as potentially the oldest piece of functional tableware on the continent, it fueled speculation about a highly skilled people who worked metals, built vast mounds, and achieved gigantic stature in a land now transformed.
Sometimes what looks familiar isn't human at all. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.